it is noon in the East and 9 on the West, and this is the first conversation in a series that we're calling Quick Fix. The idea is taking a problem or two that marketers and franchising professionals have and learning how they've fixed them. The conversations are going to be very quick. The fix might not be quick, but the conversations are going to take less than 15 minutes every week. My name is Jack Monson, and I am the consigliere at Eulerity. And joining me for this first webinar is my colleague, Adam Chandler, who's the COO and Co-Founder at Eulerity. Hey, Adam, how are you?
Happy Tuesday, Jack.
I'm glad you're joining me for this first one. You and I have a pretty good history of taking an hour or two conversation and boiling it down into a very short phone call or text. So I think this is a perfect way to kick off this Quick Fix webinar series. Today we're talking about...
Are you saying I have attention deficit? Is that what you're saying, Jack?
I'm saying you have extreme attention deficit disorder.
Fine.
But no, I think it's something that that I've noticed with a lot of entrepreneurs that we work with in the franchise space, and a lot of great digital marketing minds who can focus on something great for about 15 minutes, and then we've got to move on to the next thing. So I think this is perfect timing to kick off this Quick Fix series with you. Today, we're talking about the ins and outs of marketing, specifically in-housing and outsourcing. These were both a couple of terms that you mentioned to me for the first time about a year ago. And I thought this would be a great way to kick off this series. Every marketer I talk to, I like to start with this question in trying to figure out where their current challenges are. With most brands, we're looking at, are there challenges really on the organic side of life or on the paid digital marketing side of life? And I think with franchising, we add a whole nother dimension in that, is this a national brand problem, or is this a local franchisee or store level problem? So let's talk a little bit about the challenge that we want to dive into today, and that's decentralization. I see it as something that is a little bit more on the paid side of life than the organic side of life. And it's definitely something that's down in the trenches, right? Out in the field with the local franchisees. Am I on the right path so far with decentralization?
Yes, let's break down what that word means. It's got a lot of letters to it. So let's break it down. So decentralization, the way we define it means when you're operating your marketing through a fragmented multi-supplier method to support your owner-operator marketing needs. So it's really spreading out your media buying capabilities with different suppliers, different platforms. That's what it really means. And one of the challenges is that it can lead to low adoption rates, whether you're dealing with franchisees, financial advisors, small business owners. So it's just a really fragmented approach to running really a paid advertising solution, because you're measuring things and looking at things in different ways, and your visibility might be a little bit different.
And I'm looking at things like limited visibility into spend and other information. I'm assuming that's because it's all coming from multiple sources. Is that right? You might have different partners, different agencies, and that's just with any brand out there. But with a franchise brand, now we've got all of those. And again, with that added dimension of, we've got to look at things on a regional level or state level, or with some bigger systems, even within one DMA where you may have multiple locations. So having all of that decentralized, it's really hard to see even what people are spending, let alone what kind of creative is going on out there.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, there was never really software in the marketing side that was connected to all the different places to advertise. And so it became a sort of legacy problem that has just gone through the years. Even as modern software has been invented, you still have limited visibility because people are still doing things in this particular approach like they were maybe 10 years ago. And so naturally, it creates that limited visibility. It's sort of like if you had 4 POS systems running at the same time, it'd be really hard to understand how much you sold that day. So that's one of the challenges to implementing this without any type of system-wide control.
And speaking of implementation, I mentioned at the top of the webinar that the number one problem that we hear from marketing folks is not having enough time. I would say the number two problem is getting something implemented across all franchisees in the system. Getting adoption of any sort of program seems to be the one thing that is still a challenge to most marketers. Do you hear that with the brands you work with as well?
We do, and the solve for that, considering today is the quick fix, is we have many clients that just operationalize one way to do a specific thing, in our case, paid marketing, where they just streamline it. And they say, you have options, but use this system because we can give you the creative. It can be optimized and measured in the same way. We still have other suppliers that may do listings or SEO or our website, but for the money behind marketing, which is producing the ROI, we need a really operational way, sort of an OS system to operate it. And so if you don't have it, it becomes fragmented, duplicated, hard to track, inefficient spend, speed to market suffers, et cetera.
Yeah, I could totally see that. You mentioned the money behind marketing, and if it's all split out, decentralized, and we don't really know where everything's being spent, it just can't be efficient, and probably even worse, we're duplicating efforts in some places, and some places are getting no spend or no coverage at all. So I definitely see that as one of the problems that needs to be fixed when it comes to these decentralized programs. So let's talk about the fix. Let's walk through what some of the fixes for these problems are.
Well, I think that let's start with the opposite, right? So the opposite would be centralization. Right. You hear people talk about in-housing. And you could say I'm centralized because I have my marketing team and we deal with all of our suppliers. But it's not really centralized unless you have an operating system to manage your marketing. And the operating system is software and services, not just services, right? And so marketing centralization really means deploying software which is available to plan, create, buy, and optimize your digital marketing through one common gateway. And so if you're doing it internally, you either have a model where you're logging into Facebook or Google or Twitter or LinkedIn or YouTube yourself, and your teams are doing that, which is very hard because inefficient, different platforms, different ad sizes, different budgets, different measurement ways. Or you're hiring partners, and you maybe have a social partner or a search partner or a display partner or a video partner. Again, same challenge you're going to have, different measurement, different ways to do it, creates a lot of inertia in the system. And so in-housing is really a way to let automation become the piping to scale your system, right? If you've got 5 or 6 locations, you can certainly do this all of your own. But when you start scaling to 50 and 100 and certainly thousands, automation doesn't limit your potential, right? And so in our case, we have companies either in health and wellness or QSR or fitness, retail, finance, financial, et cetera, that are in-housing their marketing using software like ours to be able to help their team do much more with less, which in the current macro environment, and as you can see in today, brands, small or large, are being tasked to do more with less. And really the centralization and using marketing automation to do that really is the sweet spot.
Is there pushback at any level about marketing automation? I would assume it has something to do with people being afraid that, the robots are going to take over their jobs. Is that something that you still hear, or are we kind of past that?
I don't think we're ever going to be past that. I mean, because it requires translation and requires people to translate and help. And, while the software could be very modern, self-sufficient, you need people to translate what it does and what the value is and how to get the best out of it. Right. And so I think once people spend time, in our case, talking to us and understanding our great team, they feel more comfortable and they take that leap, and then they scale from there. But I always think you're going to find sort of that, that challenge when you're speaking about it more broadly. But as you start to dig in and get into the technology itself and the people that can help maximize it with you, I think it gets a lot more understood.
I think the beautiful thing about any kind of automation is getting rid of what I call the dirty work, right? The day-to-day tasks, the tedious things that do nothing but take time, especially if you're a marketing person. There's so much to do right now. Everything from Facebook ads and managing creative and making sure something is correct for every specific location. That's all really important stuff, but there are so many other things that a smart marketing person could be spending his or her time on, right? You know, thinking about strategies, thinking about growing the brand, thinking about making the customer experience better, and not spending a lot of time, you know, down in the weeds with some of the digital marketing things. So thanks for that. We're going to keep moving right along here, Adam, because as we promised, it's going to be under 15 minutes for everybody. So the next thing I wanted to ask you about were some questions that you came up with when it comes to working with a service, working with an agency, working with any kind of a partner. You've got a pretty good list of questions here to find out more about that partner. Tell me about these.
It's really about how service and technology can complement one another. Many times there are companies that are pure service models. There's just nothing wrong with that. But there needs to be technology to be able to make the brand's marketing budget more efficient and be able to produce results at scale. And so these are some questions to ask when you're looking at marketing automation for in-housing your marketing department. Does your company that you are looking at, what's their core business? What's the company DNA? Where do the founders come from? What do they particularly do? Did they run an agency prior? Were they in software? You really can understand the kind of DNA and the end user experience by asking some of those questions. In the same breath, do they integrate with some of your mission critical marketing needs? Are they integrated with Google and Twitter and LinkedIn? Are they actually integrated with them? Or are they just using your tools natively, which anyone can do these days, right? The second thing is the data provided kind of real time on all their devices? Do they have to be tethered to their desktop to see how their marketing performance is? Or could they go travel or go on vacation, do what they want, open up their phone and look at their data? People want to be able to have marketing more accessible today, much like weather and maps and things that are accessible right on your device. Why can't marketing be accessible like that? So
yeah, that's got to be a game changer, right? Because I can't imagine in 2022, any franchisee, whether it's a home services brand and someone is in a truck all day, or they're in a salon most of the day, or working in a restaurant, I can't imagine them setting up on a desktop to go in and check out some of their metrics or look at the latest creative. It's got to be something in the palm of their hand, or I just don't see a lot of franchisees investing time in their day on something that they can't access immediately in their hand.
Hence the reason why there is low adoption, because it's misunderstood, it's not accessible. So that's definitely a big thing. Make sure your software and your suppliers have the ability to deliver those customer data experiences on an app, on their phone, on their desktop, on a tablet, et cetera. The big one here is the attribution, right? So when you're looking at attribution, how did my marketing do? What was the lift from our investment? As the brand marketer, the CMO, the director of marketing, the CEO, are you logging into a sort of separate dashboard that you can't track the conversions in a place that you can see? Make sure your software provider or your agency is integrated with trusted third-party analytics tools like Google Analytics, so that you're on the same page and you can track what's happening, not just be blended in under one place. So you want to see how your partners are doing right within the same place that your partners can look at it. So one way to do that is sometimes separate your website provider and your paid advertiser mix, so that you can separate the data from the advertising. So you really understand what's happening, make changes, hold your partners accountable.
Excellent. And we're just about out of time, Adam. So I wanted to share a couple of resources here. If anyone has questions about anything that Adam or I were talking about today, you can reach us at sales@eulerity.com. We also have a couple of links here to some articles. Tell me quickly about these articles, Adam.
These are articles we put out in the industry. They're published by the IFA, and they're published in franchising world, thanks to Mary Hanula, who's our Senior Director of Marketing, does a great job. So you can read about what in-housing means, how to use technology in your marketing stack. These are some articles. Reach out to us if you'd like more. We definitely have spent a lot of time talking to brands all over on how to actually make their team do more with less.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Adam. And if anybody has questions or comments about this entire webinar series, maybe you've got some ideas for us, please reach out to us. We're at eulerity.com/contact us. You can always reach me on the email or via text or phone here on the screen. Adam, thanks so much and have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Have a good week. Bye-bye.